October 23rd, you woke up in the bathroom at your trailer,
Yes, sir.
and you testified Beau Dukes woke you up.
I have a little bit of objection. I think he's just recalling the prior testimony, but just be mindful of that.
Certainly.
Thank you, Mr. Gill.
Yes, sir. He woke me up that morning.
What did Beau Dukes say to you when he woke you up that morning?
He said he killed Tara.
And what was your first reaction?
I didn't know who he was talking about or what he was talking about. I was waking up after being drunk, being sick. You know.
And what did you do after, or what did Beau Dukes do after he made the statement?
He left the bathroom and went to the living room or kitchen.
I believe I left my notes up there.
You have a hand?
No, there. Here we go, Your Honor. We're good.
Thank you, man.
And so what was your initial reaction when he said, "I killed Tara"?
I didn't know who he was talking about or what he was talking about.
And what did you say? What was your response?
It was that, you know, just,
Were you confused?
yes.
And what did you say to him?
I asked him what he was talking about. I asked him who he was talking about.
And what did Beau respond to that question?
Yes, he said he killed Tara Grinstead.
And what happens next? Makes a
That-
statement, what happens next?
That's when he leaves the bathroom, or he says he needs to talk.
And where did he go from the living room?
From the living room,
From the bathroom.
he left the bathroom and went to the living room. And when I come out the bathroom, he was smoking a cigarette.
And were you alarmed at this point?
Yes and no. I mean, it's Beau, so it's hard to.
Did he make off-color jokes like this?
Yes, sir, all the time.
And did you get a cigarette, get a drink, anything like that?
Yes, sir. I probably grabbed a soda and smoked a cigarette, you know.
And what did you say to Beau once you got in the living room?
I asked him what's he talking about, what's going on.
How did Beau respond?
He made the statement that he killed Tara again.
And at this point, what was your response? Did you ask him any questions about it?
I told him I didn't believe him, you know.
Did he do or say anything in response to that?
He got out a wallet that had the driver's license in it.
Did he have, when he got the wallet, excuse me, you say he got the wallet out?
It was there was a purse sitting on the table.
And do you remember anything specifically about the purse or the wallet?
Yes, sir. I remember I could see the driver's license through the sleeve of the wallet.
And whose driver's license did that appear to be?
It was Miss Grinstead's.
Did you know Miss Grinstead from high school?
Yes, sir.
Did you know she was a teacher?
Yes, sir. I had passed her in the hall. You know.
Did you ever have any classes with her?
No, sir. I did not.
At this point, you see the driver's license of Miss Grinstead and the wallet you're holding. Were you alarmed at this point?
No, I had assumed he just stole the pocketbook or purse from somewhere.
And did you say anything to him in response once you had the purse, or saw the purse and had the wallet?
Yeah, I still didn't believe he had committed a murder.
Did you tell him that?
Yes, sir, I did.
At this point, what does Beau Dukes do?
He gets up and goes to his bedroom.
Did he say anything else, or just get up and go out?
He
of the room?
just gets up and walks out.
And what did you do next? What was your action or words in response?
I was just kind of didn't know what to do. You know, I was just kind of stuck there for a few minutes.
Did you ultimately decide to take some kind of action?
I did. I was going to return her purse. I'd say I assumed he had just stole it.
And when you say return her purse, how did you intend to return her purse? Or did you have a plan?
I didn't have a plan. I didn't know where Miss Grinstead lived. I don't know exactly my train of thought. I was just going to return the wallet, you know, and pocketbook.
Did you decide that you would drive somewhere, that you would take the purse somewhere?
Yes, sir. I was going to try to return her purse. So I went to the bedroom, asked Beau if I could borrow the keys. He didn't answer me, so I grabbed his keys and got in the truck.
Where were the keys at when you got them?
They were laying on the floor.
And was it common for you to use his truck around this time period?
It was. I'd always ask him. You know, he didn't care. Usually I'd ask for a ride, but he wouldn't, you know, want to get up or help me or, you know.
Did you, when you got the keys from Beau, did you tell him where you were planning to go?
I did not.
What was Beau doing when you went in the bedroom and you got the keys? What was Beau doing?
He was laying down facing the wall. I assumed he was asleep, but I don't think he was.
Was he laying on a bed in there?
Yes, sir.
And at this point, did you know where Tara Grinstead lived?
I did not.
So you get Beau's keys to the truck. What do you do next?
I drive towards Osceola.
And the trailer you lived in, it was across the road from the hospital?
Yes, sir. It had been Votech Road.
So you took Votech Road from Fitzgerald to Osceola?
Yes, sir, I did.
And about what time of day was this when you drove from Fitzgerald to Osceola?
Been about 9 o'clock in the morning.
And so where were you driving? You didn't know where Miss Grinstead lived, so where were you driving?
I knew it was in the area. I had been to Mr. Boykin's house. I knew it was around the corner or down the street, something like that.
And Mr. Boykin, who is that?
He was a teacher at the school. He had a daughter that was around my age too, maybe a little bit younger.
And you'd been over to their house previously?
Yes, sir.
And you recalled the general vicinity where they lived?
I thought so at the time.
So you're driving from from Fitzgerald to Osceola. Where do you, I guess when you come to Votech Road, where do you go next?
Go all the way to the stop sign and take a left.
Is that on 319?
Yes, sir, on 319 to go up to the red light.
And you come to the red light at the intersection of 319 and Highway 129 or Irwin Avenue?
Yes, sir.
I'm going to object to leading and ask him to not lead the defendant in this case.
Yeah, please, that's the statement, yes, let him answer, thank you.
Where did you said you turned left off of Votech Road?
Yes, sir, I turned left on 319, go towards the red light. And at the red light, I hung a right by Peck's.
And what did you do after that?
That's when I saw the store. I thought I could just make a phone call, you know.
And excuse me, what was the name of that store, if you recall?
It was the Swanee Swifty, I think at the time, or Swifty Mart, or something like that.
And you saw the store. You stopped at the store. And what was the purpose of that?
To try to call or get in contact with Miss Grinstead to make sure she was all right or return her purse.
Did you know Miss Grinstead's phone number?
I did not.
Had you ever spoken to her by phone at any point in your life?
No, sir, I did not.
You stop at the Swanee Swifty store, and did you use the payphone?
Yes, sir, I did.
And, excuse me, about what time was it when you used the payphone?
It was around 9:30.
And did you try to call Miss Grinstead?
No, sir, I didn't have the number. I called 411 to get the phone number.
When you called 411, did you place a separate call, or were you connected automatically to her house?
It connected, it started ringing, so it connected.
Did anybody answer?
No, sir.
Did you get the answering machine?
No, sir, it said the call was not answered or disconnected.
At this point, how are you feeling? You've called her house, no answer. How are you feeling?
I still wasn't, I didn't think what happened had happened. I was still kind of,
At this point, did you believe that Beau had killed Tara Grinstead?
no.
What did you do next after you make the phone call?
I thought I knew the area around where Miss Grinstead lived, so I rode around a couple blocks, and I knew her car. I think most people would have recognized the little white sports car. And like I said, I rode by a couple houses or a couple blocks and didn't see the car, and that's when I went back to Fitzgerald.
How long did you drive around the area where you thought her house might be?
Maybe 5 minutes. It's not a big area.
And after you drive around, you don't see her car, what do you do next?
I go back to Fitzgerald.
And where do you go in Fitzgerald?
I go back home.
Go back to the trailer across
Yes,
from the
sir.
hospital?
Yes, sir.
When you got back to your house, was Beau at home?
Yes, sir. He was still in his room.
Did you go into the bedroom and look at him, talk to him?
Yes, sir. I went in there and I grabbed his leg, shook him. He wasn't asleep. I asked him what he was talking about, tell me what's going on. And he told me he'd show me.
He says he'll show you. What does he do next?
That's when he gets dressed, comes out, tells me to come on. And we get in the truck.
While you're in the trailer, before you go and get in the truck, is there any other conversation between the two of you?
No, sir, not, which was odd.
Did Beau talk a lot?
He did, but not that day.
How was this point? You've come back to the trailer. He's up. You're about to get in the truck. What's his demeanor like at this point?
He's still, you can tell something's wrong. You still don't know what, but something's off.
Did you get in the truck with Beau?
I did.
And who was driving the truck?
Beau was driving.
And the two of you, did you leave the trailer, go for a ride?
Yes, sir.
Where did you go?
He started driving towards Rochelle, Abbeville, towards the orchard.
And that's outside of Fitzgerald?
Yes, sir.
You're driving, are you smoking cigarettes, anything like that on the drive?
Yes, sir. Just usually you got the radio on, the windows down, so both of us are smoking.
During this drive, the time you're in the truck driving from the trailer to the orchard, is there any conversation between you and Beau?
No, sir. He doesn't say anything.
Did you ask him any questions?
I don't think I did, but I don't recall 100%.
What are your emotions during this drive while you're en route to the orchard?
I'm getting more and more worried. I can tell something's wrong, but I still think Beau's screwing with me. He did that a lot.
Where did Beau ultimately take you on this drive? Where did you end the drive?
It was, he turned into the orchard, the Hudson Farms.
And is this the orchard? You mentioned earlier back in 2004 you had attended a party at an orchard. Was this the same orchard?
Yes, sir.
And so you recognized it did you recognize it when you pulled up?
I knew it was that area. Back then I couldn't have pointed it out. I mean,
What does it look like when you're pulling into the orchard? What does it look like? What do you see?
It's kind of a little wooded, beaten path. It just looks like a trail back in the woods.
So there's not like a paved road or like even like a formal dirt road?
No, sir. There was, unless you knew where that road was at, you'd have missed it.
Are there any, was there a gate or anything like that you had to
was-
open to get into the orchard?
No, sir, not that I remember.
At this point in your life, do you know how many times you'd been to the orchard previously?
2 or 3.
And were all those occasions for parties that Beau had hosted?
Yes, sir.
What's the weather like this day? When you get to the orchard, what's the weather like? What does it look like outside?
It was a nice fall day. It was a lot like today. It's just cooler.
Was it sunny outside?
Yes, sir.
You pull off the road onto the path at the orchard. What happens next?
We drive down the trail. It goes all the way to the end of the trail to the back of the orchard, and it kind of corners. You have to turn left. And he drove down a little further, and there was a clearing off the passenger side, and he stopped.
When Beau stops the truck, does he say anything to you?
Yes, he said, "She's over there."
Does he motion or gesture anywhere?
I don't think so. He said that as he was getting out of the truck.
And so he got out of the truck.
Yes, sir.
And did you follow him? Did you get out of the truck as well?
I got out. I didn't sure he made a kind of like a beeline to where he was going and into the clearing.
Did he seem hesitant?
No, sir.
At this point, how are you feeling at this point? When you're at the orchard, he's asked you to get out of the truck, says she's over there. What are you feeling?
I still think he's screwing with me. I think this is a joke.
And Beau gets out of the truck, where does he walk?
He walks around the front of the truck into the clearing, and I take a couple steps towards him, and that's when I see part of her.
And when you say there's a clearing, are you around, are pecan trees around you? Or is it
No,
pecan
sir,
trees?
it's in the woods. A clearing in the woods. It was not in the orchard.
How far, you said you saw something where Beau went.
Yes, sir.
How far away did Beau walk away from the truck when you stopped?
It was maybe 20 feet, 25.
And what specifically, as you're walking towards where Beau is, what specifically do you see?
I just remember seeing a spot of white. It was kind of covered up,
You say covered up with what?
leaves and limbs and other, just, covered up.
Debris from the trees,
Yes, sir.
pine straw, things like that.
Yes, sir.
Objection, leading.
I sustain that objection.
You walk towards this spot. Can you tell if it's a person at some point?
No, sir, not then. Like I said, I just seen something that didn't belong there.
When you get closer, are you able to tell whether it's a person?
You could tell it was, yeah.
Could you tell if it was a man or a woman?
No, sir, not then.
Was the person laying on their back or their stomach?
They were laying face down.
You approach, I guess, do you come to stand near Beau in that area?
No, sir, I stopped
Just
at
not
the,
gonna object, leading, yet again.
Please let him answer the question.
Did you,
I stopped at the clearing. I said as soon as I stopped or I saw something, I froze where I was,
how far away were you standing?
10, 12 feet.
Does Beau do anything once you've approached within 10 feet or so?
Yes, sir. He reaches down, he grabs her arm and just flips her over.
Was it a violent motion that he made?
Yes, sir.
Objection.
How did he move her? How did he turn her?
It was, like I say, he just reached down like you would open a cellar door and just, or crank a lawnmower, I guess.
Does he look at you?
Yes, sir. He looks at me and says, "I told you."
Can you see if the person is wearing clothes?
They were wearing clothes. She was wearing clothes.
At this point, can you tell if it's a man or a woman?
Yes, sir.
Could you see her face at this point?
Somewhat, yes, sir.
Were you able to identify who this was at that time?
No, sir. If he wouldn't have told me, I wouldn't have known who it was.
And you said that she's wearing clothes. Can you identify what the clothing was on the body?
It was a t-shirt, with some type of jogging pants, maybe.
Do you remember if she was wearing any kind of shoes? Do you recall?
No, sir, not that I remember. I think she was, though.
At this point, Beau said, I told you. Does Beau say or do anything else at this point?
He starts walking back to the truck, tells me we got something to do. But I was froze. I remember him telling me several times, "Come on."
Did you eventually follow him?
Yes, sir.
Where did y'all go?
We got back in the truck. He turned around, started to go back towards the entrance to the orchard.
And, excuse me, where do you go? Do you leave the orchard, or what do you do?
No, sir, there was a type of barn area. He goes over there, parks, gets out of the truck, starts putting, or breaks open the door and starts putting wood in the back of the truck.
And you said he broke open the door. Do you recall, was the door to the barn locked?
Yes, sir.
And what's in the barn?
It was wood.
And what does Beau do next?
He starts putting wood in the back of the truck.
Did you help him load the wood?
Yes, sir.
How much wood did you load into the truck?
It was
And this was a full-size pickup truck?
yes, sir.
What were you feeling? What were you thinking at this point?
I was just in shock. You know, it's like I was separated from myself.
So you and Beau, you load the wood into the truck. What happens next?
He turns around again and goes back to where Miss Grinstead was.
And the two of you drove over there in the truck?
Yes, sir.
Once you arrive back at where the body is, what happens next?
He gets out of the truck. He tells me to come on because, you know, I don't know. I say it was like I was watching myself. I was there, but I wasn't. He tells me to come on, get out of the truck. And that's where he goes back to where she's at, Miss Grinstead's at.
So you get out of the truck, do you follow him over there?
Yes, sir.
And how was Beau's demeanor at this point when you're back at the body?
Yeah. He was almost excited. You know, I don't know the right word.
You walk back over to the body. Does Beau do anything to the body?
He tells me to help him pick her up.
Did he touch the body or anything before?
He did.
What did he do?
He pushes up her shirt, starts fondling her.
Did he look at you when he did that?
It was like I wasn't there. You know, I remember telling him to stop, and I remember how he looked at me. You know, it's like I'd never seen him before.
How did he look?
I can't describe it. I don't have the words to describe it.
Did you say anything?
Other than to tell him to stop touching her.
Did he stop?
I think so.
Did he cover her back up? Did he pull her shirt back down?
No.
What happened next?
He tells me to come on. We got to move her.
And what do you do? What do the two of you do?
I grab her by her feet and help pick her up.
Did Beau help pick her up as well?
He did.
Did he pick her up by the arms?
Yes, sir.
Again, I'm going to object to leading.
I sustain that objection, Mr. Gibson.
What happened next?
Picked her up. We placed her on the tailgate of the truck was down. Placed her on the back of the truck.
How did she look when you came over to her?
She was beat up. She had bruises on her arms and legs. I said I wouldn't have recognized her.
At the time you helped him pick her up, could you identify who she was at that point?
No.
How was her hair?
It was over her face.
So you and Beau put her on the tailgate of the truck, and what happened next?
He tells me to get back in the truck.
Did you get back in the truck?
Yes, sir.
And then what did the two of you do next?
He drives. He drives further down into the orchard.
Do you drive, I guess, what direction in the orchard? Are you driving in the pecan portion or the pine
Yes.
tree area?
It's kind of in the middle. You know, it's in between the pecan trees and the woods.
And where do you ultimately drive to? Do you come to a stop at some point?
It's basically the orchard ends, and he kind of, does another U-turn and backs up into a clearing.
And is the clearing in the area with pine trees or with pecan trees?
It was in the pine thicket.
Had you ever been to that particular location before?
No, sir.
So Beau pulls in, does a U-turn, you said. What happens then?
It's when Beau starts to unload the wood.
Did Beau say anything to you?
He told me to get out and help him.
Did you get out of the truck?
I did.
Did you Did you help him unload the wood?
I did.
What'd y'all do with the wood?
Just started to kind of stack it, or lay it out.
Was it near the truck?
Wasn't far.
As you unload the truck, get the wood out, what happens next? What do you do?
That's when I figure out what he's fixing to burn.
What happens next? What's your reaction at this point?
I vomit. I'm dry heaving, I'm crying.
Does Beau say anything?
He starts laughing at me.
Do you say anything to Beau?
I don't think I could say anything at that point.
Once the wood's stacked up, what do y'all do next?
Beau tells me to help him put her on the wood.
And did you help him
I did.
move the body?
I did.
And once you place the body on the wood, what happens next?
I'll back out, almost out of the clearing, kind of.
You back out like you mean you walk back out?
Yeah, I told Beau I can't be here. You got to take me home.
What happened next?
He just started putting wood on top of it.
And then what happened?
He lit her on fire.
What was his expression, his demeanor when that happened?
It's like he wasn't there.
At some point, do you get back in the truck, or what happens?
I think I get in the truck. I'm not sure exactly when Beau gets in the truck too.
How much time passed between the time that Beau started the fire and
Maybe a minute, 2 minutes.
does Beau eventually get back in the truck?
Yes, sir.
And what happened after that?
We leave the orchard.
When the two of you get in the truck and leave the orchard, was the fire still burning when you left?
I didn't look back. I think so.
Was this time when you helped move the body onto the pile of wood, was that the last time that you saw Miss Grinstead's body?
It was.
At any point, either when you...
He said something that freaked me out, and then he went into the living room.
And what was your initial reaction to what it was he said to you?
I was disbelieved him. You know, Beau didn't have he'd say shit just to kind of push your buttons or, you know, try to make you uncomfortable.
And what was your reaction? Did you say anything to Beau?
I didn't believe him. I asked him what he said or who he was talking about.
And what, Your Honor, I think, can we approach for a moment?
Sure.
Arrived at the orchard, or when you were leaving the orchard, did you see Miss Grinstead's car anywhere?
I did not.
Where do the two of you drive after you leave the orchard?
He takes me back to the trailer.
On the way home from the orchard, does Beau say anything to you?
He tells me you can't say anything, you can't talk about this.
At any point, did Beau tell you what happened to Miss Grinstead?
No, sir.
Did you ask Beau what happened to Miss Grinstead?
No, sir.
Why didn't you ask Beau what happened?
I don't think I had to.
When you get to the trailer, what do the two of you do?
I get out of the truck, before I'm really even out the way of the door, he starts backing out.
Did Beau leave?
Yes, sir. He spinning wheels.
When was the next time that you saw Beau?
So over a week later,
When you saw him about a week later, where did you see him at?
he came and knocked on the door to the trailer.
Between the time that Beau dropped you off at the trailer and that week span before you saw him again, did you tell anybody what happened?
And no, sir, I didn't.
Why didn't you tell anybody what happened?
I didn't think anybody would have believed me.
When you and Beau were at the orchard, did either of you wear gloves?
Not that I remember.
At this point, did you have latex gloves in your house?
Yes, sir. My brother kept some for changing out the cat litter, taking the trash out.
Did you also use Beau Duke's truck to take off household trash from time to time?
No, again, I'm going to object to leave. This is the defendant in a criminal case, and he's continuing to leave, and I would just ask that he not leave.
How did you,
Okay, that's enough, Lee. Thank you.
sorry, Your Honor. Did you have, how did you take out your trash at your house?
We usually put it in the back of Beau's truck. There wasn't a trash service. So we'd put it in the truck and take it to the dump.
You mentioned that about a week later, Beau came over to your house and he knocked on the door. What happened next?
He had knocked on the door and stepped back. I guess so I'd come outside and talk to him.
And what did he say?
He asked if I was all right, if I'd said anything.
And what was your response?
I said, no, I'm not okay.
Did you invite Beau to move back in or stay at your trailer?
I didn't. He asked to stay. I said he didn't have anywhere else to go.
Did you want him to stay at the trailer? But you didn't tell him no, that he couldn't stay?
Judge?
Oh, did you tell him no?
I didn't. I let him stay anyway.
At this point, did you still have a job?
Yes, sir.
Did you ever discuss Miss Grinstead at any point after this?
No, sir. Oh, yes, sir. He'd bring it up.
Beau would bring it up?
Yes, sir. He'd remind me, you can't say anything. You can't talk about this. Nobody believe you anyway.
Were you afraid of Beau?
Just,
Were you afraid of Beau? It's a suggesting the answer.
Overruled that, Judge.
yes, sir.
Why?
I don't know what Beau's capable of doing.
Was there anything that he did other than things we've talked about previously that made you afraid?
You just didn't know what he would do. I mean, like I said, he had killed somebody. That's no reason enough to be scared of somebody.
Did you ever go out to the orchard again?
Yes.
When did you go out to the orchard again?
I had asked Beau to take me to get some groceries. And he started going that way towards the orchard.
Did he go all the way out there?
Yes, sir, he did.
And tell me about that trip. What happened?
He went out there, just took me out there to where he had initially burned Miss Grinstead and showed me the ashes,
What did the spot look like?
just like a small campfire, you know.
Other than this trip you just described, did you ever go to the orchard again?
Yes, sir, one more time.
When was that?
Beau had a party, it was in, I guess, November.
Was that of 2005?
Yes, sir.
Why did you go to the party?
I didn't want to go. Beau convinced me that him having a party and me not being there would be weird. It would be out of the ordinary.
Do you remember any other people that were at the party?
Yes, sir, there were several people there. I remember Garland Lott being there.
Did you talk to Garland a lot at the party?
I did it. I hadn't seen Garland in a while. We were friends, you know.
Did you say anything to him about Miss Grinstead or anything that happened at the orchard?
No, sir. We were talking and just kind of catching up, and I don't know how it come up about Miss Grinstead, you know, she was missing. It's about the time Beau walked up and put his arm around me and said we'd killed her and we burned her.
Was that while you were talking to Garland?
Objection, Judge Leading.
That was just his,
That's why.
Was that while you were talking to Gordon? Is that your overruled that objection?
Yes, sir.
do you recall if there were any other conversations after this with Beau about the disappearance of Miss Grinstead?
Yes, sir. Beau would tell me, you can't talk about it, you can't bring it up, but he was constantly doing that.
Do you know if he followed the case like in the news?
He did. He would be on the website or, you know, constantly if I went to work and come back and any update, you know, he kept an eye on it.
You said the website. Do you know what website?
I think it was Find Tara.
Did Beau have Miss Grinstead as a teacher?
He did.
Did he ever make any comments about Miss Grinstead specifically?
He did. He made suggestive comments about her.
When would that have been?
That was back in high school.
So this time period of October 22nd and 23rd, 2005, you were living with your brother. Did you continue to live with your brother after this?
For a little while. It wasn't long. We had to move because of the problems we had out there. Was getting complaints. So.
And when you moved out of the trailer, where did you move to?
A White House across from Taylor's in Fitzgerald. I don't know the street.
When approximately was that you moved into that house?
It was that year, maybe December, January.
When you were living in this house, did you have a roommate? Did anybody live with you?
It was Beau.
Was it just the two of you?
Yes, sir.
Did Beau pay any rent or utilities?
No, sir. Beau never contributed.
Did he clean the house?
No, sir.
Did you continue to pay for everything?
Yes, sir.
Did you still work at MDI at this point?
Yes, sir, I did.
What were your feelings about this arrangement?
I wasn't sure how to untangle myself from Beau.
Why didn't you go to the police at this point?
I'd say I was afraid of Beau, afraid of what he might do. I mean, I didn't think I'd be believed.
At this point, were you spending time with any friends or family?
No, sir.
Did the two of you ever have friends over to that house?
Rarely. There was one occasion where a couple of guys came over.
Who was that? Who were the...
It was Zane Deal, Cliff Benson, and not sure who the third person was.
Is there anything that stands out from that?
I just remember it being strange, you know, there being a kind of weird tension in the room.
Did you ever find out what the tension was?
Yeah, I asked Beau what was there, that was weird, what was that about?
No, I'm gonna object at this point where it doesn't sound like we're talking about any statements against interest. He's talking about a weirdness between three friends.
This goes to it's a present sense impression, Your Honor, and the effect of the statement that Beau will make on the listener, Mr. Duke.
You get the last say.
There hasn't been sufficient foundation laid as to when Beau made this statement to him to show the present sense impression, Judge.
If you'll orient us on that time period, then we'll take it from there. Thank you.
Did you discuss the visit of these friends at your house with Beau?
Yes, sir, I did. It had been that next year sometime, between January and the summer. I know I moved out of the house, that's June, maybe May.
And that's when the friends visited, is that what you're saying?
Yes, sir, it was prior to that. And
you testify there was tension that you asked Beau about?
Yes, sir, it was, I remember they all three sat in a love seat together. You know, it was just strange when there was a couch, you know, and I was in a recliner, and there was a couch, and none of them, you know, they all sat together. That was weird. What was that about?
When was that conversation?
Right after they had left.
And what did Beau tell you?
I'm going to object again. Present sense impression relates to someone who is at the time observing something and the impact it has on them as they're observing an event. That is not what's going on here. This is him asking Beau about an event he observed and Beau explaining that to him allegedly. That is not what present sense impression is.
Yes, Your Honor. So first of all, it goes to what the, I guess, the nature of this conversation was. It goes to the impact it had on Mr. Duke as the listener. And it's also, excuse me, it's also non-hearsay as the question, the reason it's being asked is for the effect on Mr. Duke, what he perceived this particular statement to mean to him.
You get the last say, Ms. Hart.
They're asking about a statement that Beau Duke's made that they've now accused of committing the murder. It's absolutely being offered for the truth of the matter asserted. And again, present sense impression is when someone is observing an event and they make a comment about that particular event, the impression it had on them at that time. This is not that situation.
I'm going to overrule that objection. If you'll restate the question.
What was Beau's response to your question?
Beau said he told them that I had killed Tara.
Other than the two times you've described, did you ever go back to the orchard after this?
No, sir.
How long did you continue to live with Beau Dukes?
So 3 or 4 months, maybe 6.
Did you move away?
I moved back home with my parents.
Why did you move back home?
I had lost my job.
Why did you lose your job?
I couldn't pass a drug test, and that had come up, so I quit.
At this time, were you doing any drugs?
Yes, sir.
What drugs were you doing at this point?
I was drinking, taking pills, anything I could get my hand on at that point.
By this point in spring, summer 2006, how often were you, take them one at a time, how often were you drinking?
Almost every day.
How often were you doing drugs?
Almost every day.
Other than the pills, what drugs were you doing?
Pot. I said pills, you know.
What pills were you taking around this time?
I was pain medication.
When you went to live with your parents, where were they living at the time?
They were still living at Pleasure Lake.
Once you moved out of the house with Beau, when was the next time that you saw him?
Several years later.
How many years was it?
I'm not sure. He had just got out of basic training, and he'd come by.
He came by, excuse me, at the time that he came by, were you living with your parents?
I was living, yes, sir. I was living in a trailer with my grandmother at the time, where I was living in 2017.
Beau visited you. What was the purpose for the visit?
I'm not sure. He had some drugs. He wanted me to do some coke with him. I didn't want to, so it was a fairly short visit.
Between the time that you moved out of the house in Fitzgerald and then this next time that you're seeing Beau, had you talked to him on the phone at all?
No, sir.
Had you had any other kind of communications like social media, text messages, anything?
No, sir, not between then.
Did the two of you discuss Miss Grinstead during this visit?
No, sir.
Did he make any kind of threats?
He implied that this place would go up like wildfire. It was kindling.
And I guess tell me about that statement. What was the context of that?
I don't know if it was before, but Beau was the pyro. You know, he liked to set fires. I would come home from work and he'd be watching YouTube videos of fires.
And when he said this place, did he indicate what he was talking about?
He was talking about my home.
How did your experience involving Miss Grinstead's body impact you?
I think it ruined me.
Did you have nightmares about it?
I still do.
Did you try to commit suicide at some point?
Yes, sir, I did.
Overruled that as well.
Did you try to commit suicide?
Yes, sir, on multiple occasions.
When was that?
I think the first time was not long after I left MDI, so it'd been 06, early 07.
And that was when you were back living with your family?
Yes, sir.
Was it just the one suicide attempt, or were there others?
There were multiple.
When was the next?
A couple years later, maybe a year or two later.
How did you try to kill yourself?
It was sleeping pills.
Once you were back living with your family out at Pleasure Lake, were you working?
Yes, sir, I always had a job somewhere.
Were they consistent jobs, like full-time type jobs?
Sometimes I've had a hard time keeping work because of my drug and alcohol problems.
Did you develop any health problems throughout this time period?
Yes, sir. Eventually, my kidneys, I went into full renal failure and started having liver issues as well.
What led to that?
The drinking, the drugs, taking the sleeping pills.
When was the renal failure you mentioned? What year was that?
2009, 2010. I get the dates mixed up now.
At that point, were you drinking?
Yes, sir.
How much were you drinking a day, just approximately?
Usually a fifth of liquor. I drink till I passed out.
Did you take any pills?
Yes, sir, I did.
Did you smoke any marijuana?
Yes, sir, I did, almost every day.
Did you receive treatment for the kidney failure?
Yes, sir, I was on dialysis.
How long were you on dialysis?
A couple years, I'm not exactly sure.
And at some point, it sounds like were you able to end the dialysis?
Yes, sir, my kidney function got to where they were working okay, that I didn't need it.
Did you continue to drink?
I do good for a little while and then fall right back into it.
Did you did you continue to smoke marijuana?
Yes, sir, almost every day.
And did you continue to take pills?
Yes, sir, almost every day.
After you had the renal failure and went through the dialysis, did you have any other suicide attempts?
I don't think so. Like I said, my memory isn't as good as it was.
At this point in your life, did you have friends in your life?
No, sir. Other than my family.
How often did you see your family?
They lived next door, so it's pretty regular.
Did you have any pets?
Yes, sir. I had 3 cats and a dog. I've had multiple strays over the years.
You spoke to Agent Sheldell about this case in February, or did you speak to Agent Sheldell about this case in February 2017?
Yes, sir.
In we'll just say the few months leading up to that meeting with Agent Sheldell, how much were you drinking at that point per day?
I was back drinking again, so it was pretty regular.
Were you still smoking marijuana at the time?
Yes, sir. Almost daily.
What about pills? Were you taking any pills?
Yes, sir. Pain medication, blood pressure, cholesterol, depression, anxiety medication.
The pills that you took, did you have a prescription for those?
Some of them, not the pain medication.
Where did you get the pain medication?
It was fairly easy to get off the street.
The pain pills in particular, how did those affect you?
They kind of lifted you up, you know, like your morning coffee, and just kind of picked you up, helped you deal if you was in pain. It was a upper.
Do you, excuse me, did Agent Sheldell in Holland initially come to see you at your house?
Yes, sir.
And did you tell them anything about Miss Grinstead at that time?
No, sir.
Did you discuss a plan to meet with them at some other point?
Yes, sir. They had asked me to come the next day and have an interview, or they wanted to talk to me about a case they were investigating.
Were you contacted by Beau Dukes after you initially spoke with Agent Sheldell and Agent Holland at your house?
I was.
How did you communicate with Mr. Dukes?
I got a Facebook message from him that he wanted to talk to me on Messenger.
And were you already, I guess, Facebook friends with Beau at that point?
I was not.
Did Beau Dukes send you any kind of message?
He did.
Do you recall what the excuse me? Do you recall what the message was?
He, like I say, he reached out, told me that the GBI had talked to him, that he knew they wanted to talk to me and to keep his name out of it.
And that was just to make sure I have the time right, that was the same day that you spoke to Agent Sheldell and Holland at your house?
Yes, sir.
I understand he's saying he wants to get the date right. It's still a leading question, so I'm going to
I would
object.
move that ahead.
Did you meet with the agents the next day?
Yes, sir.
Did you go to bed that night?
I didn't. I stayed up the night. Right.
What time did you meet with Agent Sheldell on February 22nd?
I think it was around 12:30, 1 o'clock, something like that.
Did you have a car at that time?
No, sir.
Before you went to meet with Agent Sheldell, did you take any kind of medications or drugs?
I did.
If you would, tell the jury what those medications or drugs were.
I took a morphine pill. I took a Percocet. Probably a couple Vicodin. I smoked some pot. You know, I was up all night. I was shook up.
Did you have those pills, were they at your house?
Yes, sir.
And did you have a car at the time?
No, sir, I did not.
How did you get to the interview?
My mom and my stepdad gave me a ride.
Why did you take the pills that you took?
I knew I wasn't coming home, you know, so I just took what I had.
At this point, were you afraid of Beau Dukes?
Yes, sir.
Did you believe that he had killed someone before?
Yes, sir.
When you met with Agent Sheldell that day, did you confess to killing Miss Grinstead?
I did.
Was that true?
No, sir.
When did you decide that you were going to take the blame for Miss Grinstead's death?
Sometime before I left home.
So it was that same day that you
Yes,
gave the
sir, that
statement?
morning or afternoon.
Why did you decide that you were going to take the blame for Miss Grinstead's death?
Because I don't think Beau will ever tell the truth.
When you spoke to Agent Sheldell, did you know, or do you know today, how Miss Grinstead actually died?
I do not.
Did you tell Agent Sheldell that you broke into Miss Grinstead's home?
I did.
Was that true?
No, sir.
Did you tell Agent Sheldell that you hit Miss Grinstead in her house during an attempted burglary?
I did.
Is that true?
No, sir.
Did you tell Agent Sheldell that Miss Grinstead died from a single blow?
I did.
Is that true?
No, sir.
Did you tell Agent Sheldell that you and Beau Dukes disposed of Miss Grinstead's body?
I did.
Is that true?
Yes, sir.
At some point after you confessed to Agent Sheldell, did you change your mind about taking the blame for Miss Grinstead's death?
Yes, sir.
When did you change your mind about that?
I had a visit scheduled with my dad.
Why did you change your mind?
I couldn't lie to my father.
Did you break into Miss Grinstead's house on October 22nd or 23rd of 2005?
No, sir, I did not.
Have you ever been inside her home at any point in your life?
No, sir.
Did you ever strike Tara Grinstead?
No, sir.
Did you ever choke Tara Grinstead?
No, sir.
Did you help Beau Dukes dispose of her body?
Yes, sir.
Did you murder Tara Grinstead?
No, sir, I did not.
Did Beau Dukes tell you that he killed Miss Grinstead?
Yes, sir, he did.
I have no further questions, Your Honor.
All right, thank you, Mr. Gibb. All right, Ms. Hart, you prepared to go forward with your cross at this time, or?
I am, although I think it's going to take us past the lunch hour. I'm fine to start now, or I'm fine to start after lunch. I don't know kind of where we
All
are.
right, hang on just a second. I think we got something for you to eat. It's already here, so let's break it this time so we won't have to start and stop